Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis Rosa, and I'm your host. Today, I have a very special episode in honor of Black History Month. I have two really good friends of mine. I couldn't think of anybody else to have here that I want to honor and highlight and feature because they are doing amazing things individually and also for the financial planning profession in general. And I think we can have a lot of great takeaways from what they're doing in their lives, not only financially, but also personally, just learning how to find balance in your life and things of that sort. So I have, they've both been on the podcast before, so you might already know them. Emlen-Miles Mattingly, Dasarte Yarnway. I mean, their resumes, I was just looking at their brief bios and I had to scroll through like the second page. So I don't want to spoil, let them tell you a little bit about themselves. But yeah, these guys are, firm owners. They own multiple businesses. They are family men. Dasarte is an author, has 3 books. I don't even know how they do it. So we're going to get right into it. And welcome aboard, gentlemen. Emlen, Dasarte, thank you for being here. This is awesome, man. I appreciate it. I know you guys are very busy, and I'm glad that we were able to finally coordinate schedules. So thank you for that. So let me start with Dasarte. Just if you could tell us a little bit about your background and ultimately how it led up to where you are today.
First and foremost, thank you for having us on the podcast and really bringing awareness to Black History Month. And as all of us, we pay homage to the people that came before us. I think it's special, right, for us to just be in your presence, right, talking about some of this very important subject matter. So thanks for having us on the show. In terms of my background, again, my name is Dasarte Yarnway. I'm the founder and managing director of Better Financial Group, an innovative independent wealth management firm based out of Princeton, New Jersey. My background is humble beginnings. I come from parents that are immigrants from a small country in West Africa called Liberia. My mother, born on a rubber plantation, my father in the northeastern part of the country. And from that, I learned hard work. I learned perseverance. I learned onward to greatness. And I learned that we are not defined by the negative experiences that we have, but more so by the love, the joy, the people around us, right? And our faith to always believe that we can be our best selves. Again, I'm a Bay Area born and bred person, right? So take pride in our communities. And our firm we're just empowered to impact our clients to make sure that they can go forth and impact the world. That's the Cliff Notes version. I don't want to take too much time away from Emlen and his, laundry list of accomplishments, but that's who I am.
Love it. Go right ahead, Em.
Hey, man, you know what? Once again, thank you for having us on. Really appreciate that. And you gotta, you're doing some incredible work too. Don't shortchange yourself on the work that you're doing. Love seeing it. Love seeing the growth. And thanks for the opportunity to come back on the show. My name's Emlen-Miles Mattingly. Born and raised out here in California in the Central Valley, the thriving metropolis of Madera, California. We got to put Madera on the map every time we get on. So, I'm an only child, and I don't think I've ever said that before. So I'm trying to make sure that it's different from what I say on other things. But yeah, I'm an only child, and that had a lot to do with my upbringing and my background, right? Being a solo entrepreneur kind of, fits in well when you've been an only child. I'm used to being by myself. But what I will say is the upbringing. I was raised with my grandparents and my mom in this small town. I always like to refer to myself as the California country boy because we are right in the middle of California, and it is country as can be. It's agricultural land here everywhere, and very, very humble beginning, similar to Dasarte. And I think that when I think about how my upbringing and background, my grandmother was big on relationships, right? We would go to all my cousins' houses visit them all the time. Even today, my cousins from Alabama are reaching out to me to plan an appointment to come out here. And so when I think about my background and upbringing, I think about the relationships that my grandmother had with other family members. And those relationships is how I built my practice. So my business is based largely, we have our firm, Gen Next Wealth. I'm the president and CEO of Gen Next. And we focus on relationships and trying to help minority families. And also with our podcast, the Minority Money Podcast, where we're trying to change the complexion of wealth. But it's all based on the relationships that we have with people.
Got it. I love that tagline, changing the complexion of wealth. Thank you both for sharing that. I think one common theme that I see from both of you is, number one, humble beginnings, and number two, having a great support system around you. And I wanted to go back to something that Dasarte said in his intro, where he said, just paraphrasing here, but the way I understood it was that your circumstances basically don't necessarily shape your outcome. So I wanted to ask you, Dasarte, then in terms of success, how would you say that success is achieved then if it's not based on your circumstances?
Success is, for me, I can only speak from my experiences, right? And I think for me, success is the daily commitment to be my best self. That's success for me, right? Because there's seasons when it's hard to just put your shoes on in the morning and go outside to do the task, right? But if you have that commitment to be your best self, to continue to move forward to your goals, to take that inch per day, you are a success, right? I'd even say that success for some is waking up in the morning, right? Like being from the environment that I came from, the country that I came from, and seeing some of the things that I've seen, it was a blessing to take that first breath in the morning, right? So success can be defined in a lot of ways, but in the context of what we do, in the context of, striving for more, success is taking an inch a day, right? Committing to being your best self every day. And if you can do that, you are a success.
I love it. And Dasarte, I'm assuming that inch a day comes back from your football days, right?
Absolutely. It's a game of inches. And I think that when you take that approach, right, you're going to score. If you look at the gridiron, right, for what it's worth, it's 120 yards, right? 100 playing yards, right? And the goal is to take an inch, get a first down, continue the progress. And I think that that's something that we often forget. I was so hard on myself in terms of being perfect, being excellent, right? And it's not about perfection, quote unquote, right? It's about progress. So when you prioritize progress over perfection, you begin to see more success. That's the hack, right? Instead of being perfect or trying to strive for perfection, right? You lead yourself to be disappointed because nobody's perfect. We're all imperfect in our beautiful way, right? So once you start to do that, right, just begin to fall in love with progress, success finds you instead of you starting to chase after success.
I love it, man. Progress over perfection. So it sounds to me like you have to rise above even willpower itself. Just develop a certain criteria, like your own set of values that you're just going to do no matter what. Because like you said, some days you don't even want to get out of bed, right? We all have those days. Emlen, through your trajectory, what are some success principles that you have found that work for you as you go through, all the stuff that you're doing between your podcast, your business, your family, your clothing brand, and just getting your general message out there in the financial planning profession?
Number one principle, know thyself. Got to know yourself, right? And what do I mean by that? Like, I think last year through 2020 for myself, and I think it's been something that's evolved, right? This is an evolution of who we're becoming on this journey and the progress that Dasarte is talking about, right? And so I think knowing who you are and being true to that is the ultimate sign of just moving forward, I think, because of, like, when you know who you are, you don't get caught up doing things that don't mean anything to you. And I think it's like aligning ourselves with the values that you're talking about, right? But to know that, you have to know yourself. And I think 2020 for me was a year that I really got to know myself better. I learned more about myself in 2020 than I had any other time. And it's allowed me to be able to start the podcast when I started it. It allowed me to be able to start the clothing line. And you notice that there's a common theme through everything that we have. It's motivation, it's inspiration, it's consistency, which I think is life's cheat code, right? That's the cheat code, being consistent in what you have to do. And so through those knowing myself, like I found out a lot of things about myself and was able to remove things that were hindering me from the success that I wanted to have. But it all started with knowing who I was.
Yeah, that's powerful, man, because I feel like sometimes, especially nowadays with social media, you can really get distracted and maybe even look at somebody else where you feel like, hey, look at this person having XYZ success. And you don't know what they're going through or how long it took for them to get there, or even if it's real sometimes, right? So knowing yourself is super important to make sure you stay the course.
Can we chime in on that for a minute?
Certainly.
You said something about social media. Emlen and I have been having very deep conversations about knowing ourselves and what that means going forward, right? I think that when you have the compass that is your internal belief system, right? Your principles, your values, you absolutely, without a doubt, shadow of a doubt, know what's not for you. You know what to say no to so that you can preserve your time, energy, and talents to the things that you must say yes to, right? The things that align with your purpose. So I agree 100% with Emlen. You mentioned social media. I was just talking to my fiance about this and the fact that social media will have you complaining about a good life. You know, so that's why it's so important for you to be in tune with yourself, so you can really, you know, pursue and receive the things that's meant for you. Emily didn't mean to cut you off, but you were so powerful and profound. I had to chime in.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're right. And as we're talking about social media, since it's something that we brought up, is one of the things that I had to know is like, I don't care if I'm ever social media famous. I could care less. Like I really don't care. And it started to like I hired a social media coach, which was great. She was good. She showed me a lot of stuff. But what I was able to realize is that I'm just not going to post every day. I'm just not going to do that. Like sometimes I just unplug and don't really care about social media. Won't look at it. And you know what? Because I've done that, stress has gone down, anxiety's gone down. I really don't feel like I have to, I was just like, I'll post when I want to post. And if I want to post, then I will. If I don't, then I won't. And that seems like something so small, but it's back to knowing who I was and who I am and who I want to be and the image that I want to portray. And it's not always being on social media. Sometimes I'm beyond. Sometimes you won't hear from me for a couple of days, and that's okay.
Yeah, it can certainly be freeing. Yeah, I've gone down that rabbit hole sometimes. You get caught up in just hitting that news icon on your phone and just seeing what's going on out there in the world. And number one, it's not productive. And number two, it could really have a direct impact in your feelings that day. And then it just trickles down to everything else you do. So I could certainly see the benefit of going on a social media diet, as they say. So, Dasarte, I wanted to ask you, right now, you've been doing this for quite a bit. And if you had, say, a magic wand and you can go back in time when you first got started, say, your high school days, for example, what is one thing that you can think of that you wish you would have known then that you know now that could have probably helped you along the way or maybe save you from certain headaches?
One thing is kind of hard, but I think the biggest thing for me is the fact that we have time. You have time, right? And understand that if you don't have to rush everything. And I think that just coming from my background, talk a little bit about, kind of the things that I've been through. I lost my dad when I was 12 years old. I lost my brother when I was 24. I lost my cousin. He was 24. I was 25, right? So 3 huge losses that affected my life made me realize, right? The truth is that our time is very finite. So with that in mind, I felt like I had to just act now, right? Because you never know when that day on the other side of the dash is, right? So now that I think more into it, right, it's like we have time. You have time to do it right, to really think about who you are. Like Emlen said, know yourself and who you want to be instead of putting the pedal to the metal, right? So I think that for the people that are listening, you have time. Take the time to figure out what it is that you want to do, how you want to design your life. If you're a financial advisor listening to this, how you want to build your business, right? Slow down, right? You're not in a competition with social media or anybody on there. It's all about you, your life, and how you want to live it.
Yeah, very well said, man. And I think as you said that, I was like just wondering, kind of like feeling for you, man, because I could only imagine, how hard it must have been to try and balance that out in your head between, hey, life is finite, we got to act now, and then we have time. Like I would imagine at some point there was just like a constant battle in your head, just going back and forth between I just got to do everything I could right now, every single day, right? Versus being patient and doing it right, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that has worked to my benefit in the sense that I feel like I started my business at a great time. I was 24 years old. I'm 29 now, I turned 30 this year, right? And I've built a successful business. So starting at that point because of that feeling, right, was good. But now that I'm able to slow down and now that I've been working through these past traumas, essentially, right, I understand that what has happened in my past doesn't have to be my future, right? So it's like, okay, now you have the ability and the chance to take a step back, further know yourself as you've grown, right, and design your life with the expectation that you'll be here for a while, right? And I think that, especially for people of color and maybe a lot of the people that I grew up with, we don't see we didn't see a lot of people living over 50. You know what I mean? I didn't see that's not my reality. Like 60-year-old, you know what I mean? Like, wow, just due to the neighborhood or due to some of the circumstances that we had to endure. But that is not like, I tell my clients and the people that I talk to all the time, like, we're generational curse breakers. We have the opportunity to build what we want to build, do what we want to do, pursue what we want to pursue. And if I can go back again, man, I would tell myself, hey, you have time. Think about it. Enjoy. Smell the roses, right? Don't work yourself to the ground because it's going to happen in time.
I love it, man. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Emlen? Does anything stick out that you wish you would have known sooner?
Being smart is cool. Like, and I say it and it sounds like, like if I think about all the time I dedicated to my life, I'm not saying sports are bad. I love sports. I absolutely love it. And I wouldn't trade that at all. But if I knew that, because you hear it all the time, like, this is how I get out the hood. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to play ball. This is going to play for college. This is going to do this. This is going to do that. If I would have just had someone come to me earlier in my life, and I'm not saying that, I didn't get bad grades, but if I would have just had a little extra focus, I would have went to a better college. If I'd had a little extra focus, I would have went to, I would have had a few AP classes. I would have had a little extra focus on those things that were increasing my intelligence opposed to increasing my physical stature or my physical strength, because I thought that my physical abilities were going to be the ones that were going to change things. And every day I learned that it's my mind. And it was when I was a kid, this kid lived across the street from me, right? He was maybe 5. Yeah, Steve was about 8 years older than me. And he would always pull me out. I don't even think he knew what he was doing. This is a kid in my neighborhood at the time. He would always say, "This is your strongest muscle, Emlen." He'd always grab me, give me a hug, and say, "Your strongest muscle is here. This is the one you need to wear." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was right. And because that's the muscle that we're using right now to do everything that we're doing. And it's the muscle that was worked the least. That's it.
I love it, man.
Drops mic. That's it.
That's it. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Emlen just dropped some fire when he say that's it. It just backs away from the mic.
Yeah. Signature move. I love it, man. Dasarte, you mentioned not running yourself to the ground. So clearly balance is important to you. So I wanted to ask you if you can share some of the balance practices, or at least one of them that you can share that you do yourself, that you find, because your calendar is probably booked to the minute every single day with so many things you're doing. How do you find that balance? What are some of the balance principles that you stick to make sure that you don't burn yourself out?
Yeah. So as of right now, I think Emlen and I can both attest to this, but making time for what's important. So I start my day with time for me, right? So whether that's waking up in the morning, going to the gym, coming back, doing a little journaling, right? Listening to a meditation or the Bible podcast or something like that. That's what I do to center myself first. And just in that sentence, I mentioned fitness. I mentioned mental health, right? I mentioned scheduling, so I have the energy and the strength and the fuel to get through my workday, right? These are ways that I create balance. And also finding that time to think and do nothing or just be with my family, right? And I think that deals for me a lot with time blocking and time management. I think since the inception of my business, what I've learned is that there's ways to optimize the time that you do have, because we all have the same 24 hours, but those that are super successful, those that are taking those inches off the table, right, are those that maximize the time that they have. So we know time is finite. We know we have time. Now, what do you do with your time? And I think that is something that I've been good at, right? making sure that I'm maximizing my time in a way that is going to bear fruits either now or in the future.
I think I hear a fourth book coming.
Yeah, man. How to invest your time, talent, energy, and resources, man. That might sound like a book, huh?
Absolutely. I love that you're like, time is finite and you have time. I mean, that's a hell of a title right there. I love that. You know, I was talking to Jason Wenk, shout out to Jason Wenk, about exactly the same thing that you just mentioned. And he brought up a really cool thing exactly related to what you're saying, where, you know, as financial planners, we typically tell our clients to pay themselves first, you know, and we're talking about on the financial side, right? Like save money and then spend what's left after saving, right? And he was just saying, look, you should do the same in your own personal life and pay yourself first, just like Dasarte described. Like get up in the morning, you do time for you, you're journaling, you're exercising, because otherwise you're just going to be reacting to life. If you wake up and the first thing you do is bring up that phone up and open up those social media icons or your email, you're done. You're just going to be reacting to whatever life's throwing at you.
Right. Let me touch on that real quick. This is everybody's daily battle, right? We talk about compound interest in our careers a lot, right? Talk about compound interest in our client portfolios, all of that stuff. Your daily fight every day is to not interrupt the compound interest in every facet of your life, in your faith, in your fitness, in your family life, with your mental health, right? And in your community. Like if you are doing those things day by day, a little bit every day in those areas, you will be growing and experiencing the benefits of that compound interest. Go to the gym 30 minutes a day. You're going to see it over time, right? Spending time, giving your family time for whatever time allocated, you're going to experience the closeness of that family, right? Investing, same thing, right? You let your investments mature. Over time, you're going to see the growth. And I think that that's what Jason Wenk was talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there, right? So you don't have to get it all done. You don't have to do your whole year in a week. But if you're doing the little things that are going to get you to your big goals, right? You are experiencing compound interest in your life, which will inevitably change your life.
That's gold right there. It takes years to become an overnight success.
Let me take a line from Emlen. That's it.
That's it. Mic drop. Emlen, how about you, man? Now that you definitely went through a year where you learned a lot more about yourself and you have those principles that now you've instilled as a result of knowing yourself, what are some of the key balance things that you do to make sure that you don't burn out?
You know, just like self-care is important, right? So you got to take time for yourself. And I think how you take that time for yourself, like Dasarte talked about doing it in the morning, and when you are no good to anyone else if you haven't taken care of yourself. So once I got that part taken care of, like where I could get that all there, then I started setting up other little things for balance, right? So one of the things that I try to do that I'm struggling with is from 6 to 10, from 6 to 8, that's about time that, everybody gets home. So wife's home from work, everybody's home from daycare. 6 to 8, no phone. Got to take the phone and put it away. This is a thing for balance. And there's little times during the day. I talked about this earlier, about a time that I use earlier in the day that I don't have my phone and I turn off internet on my phone from 8 to 10:30 every day. You're in a group text with me on WhatsApp. You see, you don't see anything from me during that time. Those are little things I think where I take time away and I'm intentional about what I'm doing with my time and who I'm spending time with. I take my watch off, my Apple Watch. I take my phone. I put it in my room. I don't have any contact with that. And from 6 to 8, this is when we usually get dinner, put the kids down for bed. And that is really the time that I have to spend with family uninterrupted, with nothing from work. And it's valuable. It's so valuable. And I've seen the relationships flourish with my kid. Like my kids look forward to that time. They're like, where's dad at? If I get home at, a little after 6, they're like, what's going on? Like, where are you supposed to be? You know what I mean? And we've created that environment where this is what we do for this time. We sit down at the table, we eat dinner together every night. That's non-negotiable. We sit down and eat dinner at the table every night. We have conversations about the day. And I've seen what it's done to my family. So that's how I keep my balance. And that's how I, because it's one thing that we do, right? All of us say this, we do all this for our family, but yet when we get the time with them, we're still trying to be connected to work. And I don't want to have that happen because I've had that happen for a long time. And so I got intentional about the time that I was spending with my family and when I was doing that.
Yeah, guilty as charged, man. You hit it home for me, man. I am very guilty of that, of being with my wife, but not really being mentally there, because I'm always thinking about something with the business, what I'm doing next, the client situation. So let me ask you, Emlen, was that a struggle for you to make that transition?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I'm trying to figure out what's going on, right? It's not like I'm telling you after I realized this. For the longest time, my wife's trying to talk to me and I'm not present at all. Like I catch she'll say something and we've all had this, and it's not just her, it's the kids, it's anybody. I'm in my phone and they're talking to me, and you're just like, and next thing you know, it's like you said yes to something. You're like, yeah, we're supposed to be going to do this kid's another birthday or something. And I have no idea what she's talking about because I'm really not listening. And that was happening a lot, bro. Like the more I thought about it, like we were just basically those hours from 6 to 8. It was just like I was just kind of zombieing through it. And so what happened was it was just like, really, you really want to, I'll get personal with you. Really what happened was I was seeing how my kids weren't reacting when I was leaving. I have to go somewhere. And I'm like, and they're like, all right, we'll see, no hugs, no kisses, nothing like that. It's like, dad's just gone. And I'm like, is that how I want my kids to remember me, just being busy? Like, I can't create this. We talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about the lifestyle that we can create. We talk about all this stuff, but yet somehow I'm tied to this phone and not spending time with the people that I'm supposed to be, providing for. And so it really just kind of hit me when the kids weren't as connected to me. Now I can't even go in the garage and they're like, where'd Dad? I was like, okay. So it to me, that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, that'll do it too. Wow, that's powerful, man. Thank you so much for sharing that and getting personal with us. Absolutely. Dasarte, I wanted to go back to something you mentioned about the balance, right? How can we apply that to finding the financial balance as well? Because I feel like a lot of people I speak with, have that time struggle too, where it's like, I want to enjoy the now, right? Because I work hard and I deserve it. But at the same time, we kind of have to strike that balance where we also put in money away for our older self, so like the struggle between instant gratification and still making sure you're putting some seeds, that you're planting so that you have that harvest later. So do you have any tips for our listeners on the financial side of things that they can do now to kind of set themselves up for success, but not feel necessarily like they're missing out either?
Yeah. To first things first, I'm a millennial planner. So I think just the personalities of millennials in general, you want to experience things, right? So I don't plan to be so conservative that you can't do anything. That's number one. So I feel that, I am that, right? And I live that. Now, the antidote, right, for balance lies in a plan. That's the answer, right? So if you want balance, you have to create it and plan for it. And that's what we do. We are financial planners, right? So anybody listening to this right now, like, I don't know, I want to plan, I want to enjoy life, right? Because I do deserve it. I work hard, but I don't know how. It lies with the financial plan. On my podcast, I've been talking deeply about assessing yourself and finding the gaps specifically, right? So in our mental model that we use, the right planning process, we talk about retirement, investments, insurance, taxes, and estate planning. We supplement that or back that up through budgeting. And if you aren't sure about what you're doing in each of those components, you need to be planning, right? Then you'll strike the balance. Then you'll know exactly how to pay yourself first. You'll know what money is allocated for trips, right? And these different things. You'll know how much you should be contributing to retirement. You'll know what type of insurance you need to, really protect yourself and your family. Estate planning, tax liability, all that stuff is wrapped in. So I'll go back to the statement that I mentioned before, the antidote for balance, right? The antidote, the thing that you need to achieve balance, it's going to be planning. And I think that's a great place to start.
Wow. Yeah. Mic drop. See, we have another mic drop moment.
That's it.
No, that is so true, because I feel like then that's also going to trickle down to you, how you feel, because if your finances are in order, they're balanced. A lot of people, you said budgeting, a lot of people fear that word, just like people fear the diet word, because they immediately associate it with lack. And you're saying, no, this is control. When you have a budget, you're deciding, you're in charge. This is how much I'm actually allocating towards travel and towards my insurance needs and making sure my family's taken care of and so on. So you're in the driver's seat. It's not really lack, and that's a great way of putting it.
A lot of planners will take the word budgeting and mask it and say like cash flow analysis or something like that. I'm all about facing fears. Like, this is your budget. Like, this is what we have to do to make sure that you understand how exactly we can achieve the balance, right? So no matter what word you use, I think that the fact that people are get rattled by the word budget means that that's exactly the direction that we need to go. We have to lean into those things. We have to lean into those fears. And I think that's where our value add lies, right? In helping people lean into their fears, planning for it, right? And knowing that they have a solution and knowing that there's nothing to fear at the end of the day, right? So again, the antidote for the lack of balance is always going to lie within that financial plan. And if you don't have one, you should get one, because that will serve as the compass for your goals.
Beautiful. Emlen, how about you? What are some of the things that you recommend that are just kind of just principles that you usually tell your clients to do in order to have that financial balance?
Spend money on things that you value and don't spend money on things that you don't. Like, so we talk about, we don't use the B word with our clients, but I'm messing with you, Dasarte. But when we're talking about conscious spending, that is so basically what we do is we spend a lot of time talking about what clients value. What do you value? I value family. And we have that same conversation, right? You value your family so much that you work, 80 hours a week and don't spend any time with them. Just let that sink in. They're like, well, no, that's not what I mean. I said, okay, so let's talk about what does that value look like? So we align their values with their goals, and then we accomplish them. If someone's telling me that they want to take a vacation, they want to spend time with family, they want to do different things, then we outline that and we tie those goals to their values. It doesn't matter how big the goal is or how important you think it is if you don't value what you're trying to do. So we have to always have this realignment with the values. Is this really important to you? Tell me where you spend your time and your money, and I'll tell you what's important. So when we're going through that, it's like, okay, you're spending, when we're going through the budget part, that's where we go. But I really like to hone in on those values about, what's important to them. So we do a values exercise where we can ask, if it's spirituality, that's something that's important to them. How are you tapping into that? What are you doing to feed that? What does this have to do with your finances? Everything. What does this have to do with your finances? Absolutely everything, because how you spend your money does impact your mood, does impact it impacts everything. So when I'm talking to someone about the values and we look at where they're spending money, what I've noticed is when people have anxiety or when they have troubles connecting things with their finances, because they're spending money on things they don't value. So we start there.
Yeah, wow. That's so powerful because, going back to the social media thing, sometimes you might be spending money just to, keep up with people that are in your circle or just somebody that you follow and they have that perceived success that you see, right? And, I always laugh about it. Back in the day, you had like neighbors where they were like basically competing, like who had the nicest SUV, whatever. Now, that has multiplied with social media because you see everybody posting about everything. Wow. Now, gentlemen, because of your influence in the financial planning profession, I have a feeling that a lot of people listening will also be financial advisors as well, not just individual consumers. So I wanted to just real quick touch base on what would be your advice to a young advisor that is looking to get into the financial planning profession now, that, things that maybe you learned along your journey that you could just share. So we'll start with Dasarte.
Things that I've learned that I should share with the young advisor. I think that I am a young advisor, first and foremost.
I didn't mean to retire you there yet, Dasarte.
I would say come in with like an idea of what you want to build. Right. So for me, I know I wanted to build a practice that would allow me the time affluence, right, to reinvest that time to the people, places, and things that I love the most. Like that was the goal for me, financial freedom of choice in how I spend my time, right? That's the most expensive and precious currency that I feel exists on this earth is time, right? And I told you a little bit about my background. So what it is that what is your why? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? Why are you serving the people that you want to serve, right? And if you come in with that, at least that understanding, initial focus, right? It'll be easy, again, to say yes to the things that are aligned with that and no to the things that are not. So if I could tell I didn't know that coming in. I just knew that I wanted to help people, right? And I wanted to build something that I can really control my time. But if you have an idea of exactly who you want to serve, why you serve them, right? I think that it helps you to build the type of firm or work for the type of firm that'll help you realize those goals.
Beautiful. How about you, Emlen?
I would say sign up for the BLX internship next year.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, right. There's a good program that Luis is a part of, BLX. But no, seriously, I would say begin with the end in mind. Similar to what Dasarte is saying, but I always say begin with the end in mind, because what's going to happen is as you're creating this business or this entity, it will have a life of its own. And what you create, either you'll drive it, or or you'll get drugged through get drugged by it. Because what happens is, and what I mean by that, either you're going to drive your business, meaning that you're in control of what's going on, or you create this monster, and next thing you know, this monster's around your ankle and it's dragging you everywhere. And anything that your business starts to do, you don't, so I think that it's really important to understand what you want to create in the end. I know people always talk about, well, what do you want your business to look like in 5 years? I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about, revenue, stuff like that. What do you want that to look like? Do you have this many people? Are you growing to grow staff? Are you growing to sell your business? Are you growing because this is what you want to do? Are you building a lifestyle practice? What kind of clients do you want to work with? What's the relationship that you have with them? Because understand this is your business and you can build it any way you want. So be able to think outside of the box in the way that you create this, and really, really understand what's important to you. Like, I can't say that enough. Like, we talked about it on the client side, but it has to be what's valuable to what's important and what's valued by the advisor. In my business, we talk about value in relationships. So it's crazy, right? We talk to our clients all the time. It's like, hey, what's going on? How are the kids? This and that. It's that kind of question, those kind of conversations, because that's what we value. What do you value as an advisor? And you can build a practice and get paid to build stuff around what you value and what you like to do. It's crazy.
And speaking of shameless plugs, you got to listen to Grow with Dasarte. Tell us a little bit about that, Dasarte.
Yeah. So I'm currently the head of community at Altruist. And what we do is we run a podcast called Grow. And Grow is just a podcast with conversations with financial experts like Luis and Emlen, talking about how they have scaled their businesses. I think it's the perfect place for somebody in the industry to get to know other advisors, first and foremost, and hear about successes, failures, and everything in between on this business and how these advisors have found success. So if you have a chance, feel free to tune in to Grow and log into the network. Subscribe to the network, www.altruist.com/grow. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, we'll be sure to put that in the show notes as well. I have a few more questions for you, gentlemen, but for those listening, I would like for you to get some time to just tell us where we can find you online, social media, websites.
On Instagram, you'll find me at Instagram and Twitter. It's just going to both be E-Miles Mattingly. That's E-Miles Mattingly on Twitter and Instagram. And then on LinkedIn, it's going to be my full name, Emlen-Miles Mattingly. Yeah. Hold on. Or you can listen to it on the Minority Money podcast. There you go, too. There it is on all platforms.
You can find me on social media at Dasarte Yarnway. That's Dasarte, last name Yarnway, Yarnway. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find me there. You can also listen to my podcast, the Young Money Podcast, on all streaming sites.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to put all of that in the show notes. So be sure to just go to onmywaytowealth.com or your favorite podcasting platform and check the links in the show notes for all the contact information for both Dasarte and Emlen. Wanted to ask you another question in terms of what you're doing, right? Right now, you're running your practices, et cetera, and other businesses. What are some of the projects that you think that you might want to share with the audience that you see yourself doing within the next 2, 3, 5 years that something that you have in mind, whether it's growing your business or just something else entirely? Dasarte.
Oh, I got a lot of ideas, man. I think that I lean into the ideas that stick with me. Right now, Emlen and I are working on a project. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Emlen, but we're working on a project right now that is going to create a lot more access for underserved financial advisors in our space. One of my big goals is to really scale my business, right, and continue to be sure to give access and opportunities to people that otherwise wouldn't have it. I remember being in the industry as a young bull, having to figure it out, having to apply to all these firms, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, UBS, and not even getting the interview, right? And I imagine it's that same struggle for people just like me coming out of school right now. So being able to use my firm as a gateway, right, for opportunity. And then lastly, taking it up a notch and getting into the VC space, right? I think that there's such a phenomenal group of entrepreneurs that are underrepresented, that are creating great things, but can't find the capital. And I think there's a lot of investors that have the net worth, have the cash on hand to invest in some of these companies, but don't have a seat at the table. So being able to use a VC firm to be the bridge to answer some of those questions, right? To help people that are underrepresented invest in the next Snapchat, right? Or to help these founders, right, get the capital to be the next Snapchat. When you think about Calendly, a company that we all use to schedule our meetings, right? That's a Black-owned company, currently worth $3 billion. I bet you a lot of minority investors would like access to that, right? So that's kind of my short list of things that I'll be working on and kind of learning more about. But I'm looking forward to see what the possibilities are in the future.
Yeah, you guys are just scratching the surface right now. How about you, Emlen?
Yeah, man, I really believe in changing the complexion of wealth, and everything that I do is going to be working towards that. So with the project that Dasarte and I are working on, far as providing access to, minority advisors, is going to be something that is much needed, because as a minority, as Dasarte knows, as a minority, and all the other minority advisors that are out there, we know that we've had our own path to get into the industry, is unlike anyone else's, unlike most. And so if we can come out there and create or help people know that they belong in this industry and give them a place to go, then that's my passion. You know what I mean? Because we have to make things different. We have to do that. And so that's what we're doing, and we're working on that now. So yeah, it's exciting, man. It's super exciting, especially with everything that happened last year. It really highlighted things that we needed to change in our industry. And it's time for some disruption.
Yeah, and I love how both of you have that focus of providing access, and you're using your own experiences to then gauge, like, hey, this is how difficult it was for me applying to this place, applying to that place, and trying to get in. And then now you're saying, hey, you know what? I can actually create a platform where people that come behind me can have access, pretty much, right? Which ultimately will lead to us being able to serve the underserved. Because in a not too long, we're going to be a minority majority country, as they say, right? So we have a lot of people that are underserved right now, and as the population grows, that is just going to get even further, right? The wealth gap continues to grow. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing, because I'm sure it'll be very easy for you to just continue to be successful and grow your practices, but you're taking conscious effort to say, I'm going to volunteer my time, my efforts, my contacts to create a platform where we can help these young planners of Black and Latinx background to come into the profession. One of the things that Emlen and I are working on with Chloe Moore and Sean Tedlaska is the BLX Internship Program, which I'll put in the show notes as well. It's an internship program designed for students and career changes of Black and Latinx background to get access that they normally wouldn't be able to get at a fee-only financial planning firm. And we made it a requirement where these students are required to get paid a minimum of $15 an hour for a minimum of 15 hours a week for 8 weeks during the summer. So it's a great opportunity. We're already at capacity for this particular round in 2021. We had great success, over 120 applicants and lots of firms that have committed. So the outpouring of that support has been amazing. And it's just going to get better from here. That's one of the things that I'll be working on alongside with Emlen as well for the next 5 years plus. So yeah, it's been overwhelming. I'd like to thank you both for taking the time for being here. And I appreciate everything you do for the financial planning profession and also for your clients. Because I know that, maybe sometimes you don't realize it, but the impact that you have is beyond what you can see. You have motivated and inspired me in so many ways. Even if I haven't told you about it, I'm telling you now. So just like when you have those days that are tough to get out of bed, et cetera, I might see just onward, on Twitter. I'm like, yes, let's get it. So thank you both, gentlemen, for being here. It's been a pleasure, honor. And I can't wait to listen to this because there are some gold nuggets in here, man.
For sure. Thank you for having us again, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Luis, man, thank you, bro. Like I said, we've been tight for a while since that conference. We've been tight, so it's been good, man. I've enjoyed watching you grow as an advisor and see the podcast growing and the merch. You know what I mean? I love it. I see it. So yeah, man, congrats to you. Kudos to you. Keep grinding and we're rooting for you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to On My Way to Wealth. Be sure to visit at onmywaytowealth.com. If you have any questions, any ideas, send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation.